Welcome back to more news. I hope you're having a fantastic day. So today we are going to be talking about a Q&A that happened in which Gaijin basically revealed what's the plan of the future for War Thunder probably this year. So be sure to hit the subscribe button because we're going to dive right into this. Starting out with aviation, the first question, pretty fun one if you like Phantoms, was asking for more Phantoms, mainly the naval ones for the US, and the answer was yes. Quite simple. Next one down the line was for stock missiles on jets. As missiles become more and more necessary to engage enemy vehicles, it would make sense for them to be stock, and Gaijin responded saying that they are considering the idea for high-ranking jets. But what counts as a high-ranking jet these days? Obviously, of course, the Phantoms, but with some questions we have coming in the future, what if they're implying things above the Phantoms, in which where missiles become an absolute necessary, and some jets don't even have guns? Now, the next question down is actually quite of a sudden change, asking more float planes because they're coming useful in naval, and the answer is hopefully we'll see some more. So here's the big question that's got everyone talking right now. Will we see a expansion into rank 7 for aviation this year? And their response is stay tuned to the news. From my understanding, everyone's taking this as a direct yes, and a hard yes on that. However, when they say stay tuned to the news, oftentimes I find them dodging the question, though that's normally in the comment section of a dev blog asking if the Mirage is going to come this patch. In this scenario, I'm not exactly sure how this carried out, why they're answering these questions precisely. I would assume it's questions they picked that they already had answers prepared for, and for this one I'd say that perhaps it is implying a yes. I guess you could go further on this question. If it is a yes, does that mean that we're going to see them next patch or later the year? But to go back onto the stock missile question, I have a feeling if we do see rank 7 jets, whatever they happen to be, those would be the jets that get stock missiles opposed to the ones that we currently have, the current top tier. My assumption would be things like MiG-23 or even MiG-25 and F-14 or F-16. Not only do those often carry a lot more missiles than we currently see, but missiles are much more necessary. In fact, some jets don't even have guns, so you kind of need stock missiles there. Let's get on with the other questions. This one I had the sensor. Are they going to add a voice warning system like the one that tells you to pull up? And their answer was yes, this might be an interesting addition to high-range combat audio. So now you'll get a computer voice telling you that there's a hole in your left wing. The next one I'm very excited for because I like it a whole lot. It's asking if they're going to add the IL-40 and its modifications. And the answer is yes, there are such plans. And the final aviation question was asking if we could have a system for bombers that typically have a large number of crew members that if the pilot or the gunner or whatever is knocked out, another crew member could replace them like we have on tanks and boats. However, this system is already partially in place. For example, pilots, if a plane has 2 pilots and one gets knocked out, you can still fly so long as the other one is still alive. If both of them are knocked out, you're dead. However, they did state that this system is not for gunners. If one gunner dies, another gunner cannot replace them, nor could your co-pilot or the weird guys having lunch in the back of the G5N1. Now let's get on to ground forces questions, starting out with British light tank line, asking if they're going to see more British light tanks now that we have the, what people are calling a sub-tree, but it's not really a sub-tree, just a branch of the British tree that has the South African vehicles in it, many of which are light vehicles. And the answer was yes, new light combat units for Great Britain are planned. And I have a pretty good feeling that they're going to put those British light combat units into this South African sub-tree, and I'd hope destroy the illusion that it's any form of sub-tree. They just put South African vehicles into the British tree, probably the pander to South Africans. Next following question, will you allow us to customize the side skirts of vehicles? Some people want to, for some reason, take off the side skirts of the vehicles. I think tanks with side skirts on are pretty cute. I mean, cool. They look pretty cool with the side skirts on. However, some people want to take them off. And there's historical factors of tank crews taking off the side skirts of their vehicles. Oftentimes they get bogged down in mud, so having big old sheets of metal in the side of your tank was not helping. However, generally, I don't see how it would be a bad idea. If people want to not do it, why not let them? Gaijin's response was essentially lol no. Question after that one was asking why don't the wrecks of tanks cool down after a while? They still pop up on thermal sites long into the battle, and it's annoying. Gaijin had a kind of long and explanatory reason why they don't cool down, and also put on some other possible reasons like they're baking in the hot sunlight. However, I have a more proper response. The damn thing was on fire. You think after 20 minutes something that's on fire is going to be ice cold? Haven't you ever like grilled something or even used a stove at the least? You heat something up to a few hundred degrees Fahrenheit and it can still take a good 20 minutes for it to cool down to the point where you can touch it. Now imagine that it's so hot to the point where the steel is turning to black char, engulfed entirely in flames, and you expect it to be cold enough where it doesn't pop up in the thermal sights after what, 10 minutes, 20 minutes? Matches only last 20 minutes if you're lucky. Personally, I think a solution solution to a lot of problems that people have with the tank bodies staying around would be to have it so you could destroy them with, say, an HE shell, 75 millimeters or bigger perhaps. I don't know how realistic that would be, but it would be a very useful game function. If there's too many in a corridor, you could just destroy them instead of trying to drag them out. Or if somebody's trying to use them as cover, you could take their cover away. And in this situation, if you were to hit them with a high caliber heat FS round, perhaps that would get rid of it and it would no longer pop up on your thermal sights. Another benefit of them being destroyable was that things like HE shells would actually have a proper use. Well, I guess they kind of have a use now that you can meme people with them, but even more proper use, something more reliable. After that, we get into some more exciting ideas and details, not just questions that answered no. VCC-80 Dorado IFV for Italy. Also, Spike LR ATGMs. For the tank, they say yes. However, for the Spike LRs, they said that they're probably too OP, and if they did add them, they would probably only have the lock after launch functionality, not being able to maneuver the missile. But lock after launch in itself could be pretty powerful. I guess there technically is already a lock on ATGMs in the form of that one Russian one, so I guess it wouldn't be the biggest deal, but might allow you to shoot a number of ATGMs at a time, which could be pretty cool actually. Regardless, I do think a better direction to go in would be to start implementing tanks with hard kill APS, mainly because that stuff's just cool. The following question was just asking if all vehicles have volumetric armor, and as current, it's not on every single vehicle, but they've been adding a number to that list of vehicles that do have it every patch. The next question I did not understand, so I'm just going to read it verbatim. Are you continuing to develop the functionality of suspended armor? Yes, we are regularly introducing vehicles with different options for additional protection. I'm not really sure what is meant by that, but hey, I hope it sounds cool. The next one is actually a question that I have been thinking about quite some time now, because it extends beyond just the Brits, but currently the Brits kind of ran out of tanks. Their current top tank, the Challenger 2, is the best tank the Brits got. So what are we going to add when we add other vehicles to other nations? Like, for example, T90MS or T14 perhaps one day, or M1A2 SEP 3. Their response was, well, there are many variants of the Challenger 2 that we have not seen in game yet, which I guess satisfies for right now, but really do have to look at this and realize that the Brits are running out of tanks to keep on adding. I guess you could add that one prototype tank with the new gun from Rheinmetall. But even if we get past the issue when it comes up for British tanks, what about Italian tanks? They don't exactly have a whole lot more advanced things either. Japan, really only next thing you could add would be the Type 10, though that's a bit of a jump. There's some tanks in between that you could add, some prototypes of the Type 10. And even the US is actually a little bit short on tanks as it currently stands. What we have in game is actually a mixture of a variety of M1A2 SEPs. If they were to separate that variety, you could probably get 3 M1A2 SEP versions out of it. Of course, the version 1, 2, and 3. But what's beyond SEP V3? I'm not really sure. I think they have the M1A3 prototype type thingy, but it's not a whole lot different than what we currently have. And I'm not even sure if it would be able to hold up against the things like the T14, which I'm sure they're going to add someday. But if you got any solutions or answers to the questions I'm putting forward, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. How many more advanced variants of the Abrams are there left to add to the game? And honestly, the game's the same with Russian tanks. T90, and then you got the T90M and the T90MS. The last question for ground forces is asking why don't they add 3 BM60 to the top tier Russian tanks, the T90A and the T72B3? And their answer was that they don't like adding new very powerful shells all willy-nilly. They need to be very cautious about it. You don't want to accidentally unbalance the entire game mode. In the answer to this question, they do state that Soviet MBTs are inferior to NATO MBT designs, and that the battle range changes for the Russian top tier ones, as well as the Chinese one, as well as the buff to HE that we've seen, did help them out a bit, but it's not overturning it directly. Their win rates still suffer, supposedly. So they might add 3 BM48. I'm not sure how more powerful that is than what we currently have, but giving them some bigger shells could definitely help out. Now on to the most anticipated part of the Q&A, the naval section. I know how much you all love naval forces. The first question asked about torpedoes and how they explode on top of ships and how this detriments a lot of ships that have torpedoes on them. And Gaijin's response was that this issue is going to be fixed and the explosion chance will be significantly reduced. The other question was actually much more interesting, saying that the War Thunder Warfare 2077 showed an interesting controllable UAV from the Hydra. Is it possible this mechanic could also work for ships with catapult aircraft modeled? The response was, it is a very interesting mechanic for us and we consider various applications both in naval and ground battles. I'm not really sure where in ground battles that would place. I don't know if there's any modern tanks that can shoot out UAVs. I know that's like a thing that they like the idea of, but I'm not sure if it's been implemented or used. However, I would love to be able to launch the little spotter planes on the cruisers. It would be very cool looking mechanic. I'm not sure if it would help out much at all. I guess you could try to go and cap the zones, but it'd be a cool idea. It also could lead to perhaps aircraft carriers being added to game, which honestly, the way the game currently functions, an aircraft carrier wouldn't work well at all. Though in during confrontation, it could be very useful for two reasons. One, you could launch aircraft out constantly, and another, you would have more places for allied aircraft to land. Speaking of which, the next question was asking if naval enduring confrontation would be put as a permanent game mode, much like Heli EC, and the answer was lol, no. The final naval question was asking about project ships such as the H battleships for Germany, and their answer was actually what has currently been, that they're not discluding the idea of ships that had been laid down but not fully constructed. The reason for this, while they take this route over other vehicles, say aircraft and tanks that haven't been finished, not allowed, is that for a ship, constructing one typically takes a whole lot more effort and time, and there's not a whole lot of random prototypes that you could try to fill in place of the incomplete versions. Oftentimes when it came to naval vessels, you drew out some blueprints, you built it, and if it had any problems or kinks, you kind of just had to live with it. Can't go back to the drawing board and change this or that. It takes years to build ships sometimes. Also, allowing ships that had begun construction, even at the earliest stages, would allow Russia and Germany to have vessels that can compete against things like the Iowas and Yamatos, if we ever see vessels that size. Now on to helicopter questions. The last helicopter question is more Italian helis, and the answer was actually just a simple singular yes. Nice, good news. The final question was actually pretty interesting. Somebody was asking if you could have a instant test drive of sorts for tanks, at least, where opposed to loading into a new map and then you get the tank there, you go to your whatever tank you want, you press the test drive button, and the UI goes away and you can immediately start driving the tank. Now Gaijin did say that they are not planning to have it be so instantly, but they do have plans to change the tank test drive, which sounds pretty cool. And that's actually it for the Q&A, pretty long one. Now there was some news. They had like a whole dev blog type thing going on with some bugs that they fixed. And while they did fix some pretty important bugs as well as added some nice features, one of the bugs they fixed made it so planes don't fall into or off of carriers as much when landing on them, which is nice, and maybe aircraft carriers. We'll see about that. I don't really want to cover every little detail of that patch notes because it's mostly just minor bug fixes here and there. Nice things. I'm acknowledging that they happened. My biggest complaint is actually that they were unable to fix my broken marriage, or at least refuse to help. And one final note to address the thumbnail that I'm using. The image that you see of the jets flying by was indeed constructed by the artist that makes many other artwork for War Thunder. However, I've seen some people fishing around saying that it's recent or recently discovered or something like that, and is implying that we're gonna see Su-22s or whatever jet is flying there. If you look up the ArtStation page of the artist Gaijin implores to create some artwork for them, Yuri Gorbanov, you can find that this image was posted 5 years ago, back when HFS and ATGMs were first being added and the top jets were MiG-15s. If there's anyone out there that's peddling this image stating that, oh, this is showing that they're planning to add modern jets in a reasonable time frame, the only possible solutions are they are either extremely misinformed, likely pulling your leg, or not exactly intelligent. I know Gaijin does have plans for the future, probably a year or so. I highly doubt that they have plans that span over half a decade. And if you're to imply so much just from artwork, you could say this piece of artwork right here is implying that they're going to add submarines. Sure, it was posted 4 years ago and they've never hinted towards that. Prior or after totally means submarines, my dudes. Or maybe this one's hinting towards a fishing minigame is going to be added. And that's about all the news I have for you this weekend. There might be something Friday, but I have a feeling I'm going to be occupied Friday. Maybe streaming. We'll see. Be sure to hit me up on twitch.tv/21900. So before I interview, first I'd like to thank my Patreon, YouTube members, and Twitch subs. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I hope you are able to eat a lot of delicious cake. So if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, be sure to hit me up down below or on my Discord. If you've liked the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you didn't like the video, don't hit the like button. If you want to see more, I make War Thunder Weekly news videos every Friday, make random videos throughout the week, and I like to stream on Saturdays. I'm also digging into some enlisted content, so be sure to hit the bell icon to be notified anytime I upload anything at all. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day. In the terms of bonus news, there is these leaks posted on Reddit, and looking over them, I can confirm that they're fake, mainly because there is no 1977 Volvo 244DL, which was confirmed in the Q&A. I skipped that one, by the way.